You know, when most of us think about grammar, we usually picture something like a dusty museum.
Right, yeah, like everything is just locked behind glass.
Exactly. Perfectly still, categorized into these neat, rigid little boxes. It feels like looking at, I don't know, old, faded photographs.
It feels completely static, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Just this collection of ancient rules frozen in time that you're somehow just supposed to memorize without ever really understanding why they exist.
But see, if you look at how we actually speak on a daily basis, suddenly that whole museum just disappears. We aren't looking at still photographs at all.
Not even a little bit.
Right. We are holding a live action camera. Everything is moving. Everything has momentum.
Language is in motion. I mean, it's messy, it's active, and it is very much alive right now.
Absolutely. So today we're taking a deep dive into a single page of notes we've got here. Think of it as a blueprint for the English language.
Just one page.
Yeah,
But it's packed.
it really is. Specifically, we're decoding this foundational building block called the present continuous tense. Or, to strip away the intimidating jargon for a beginner English learner, it's just the I am doing tense.
Much less scary when you put it like that.
Right. Our mission today isn't for you to memorize a textbook. If you're a beginner who wants to learn quickly without getting overwhelmed, this is for you. We want to figure out how this specific tool allows you to talk about your world exactly as you are experiencing it.
Because once you understand the mechanics of the real nuts and bolts, you stop reciting rules and you start actually capturing reality.
Exactly.
It's basically the difference between describing a car engine on paper and actually turning the key.
I love that analogy. So to figure out how this live action camera works, we have to start with its most literal, obvious use.
The literal now.
Right. Our blueprint sets the scene with this great little visual to anchor us. So imagine you are standing on a sidewalk watching city traffic go by.
Okay, I'm picturing it.
In the picture, there's a woman named Sarah. She's sitting inside this bright pink car, gripping the steering wheel, and she's just stuck right in the middle of a busy road with other cars boxed in all around her.
A classic rush hour nightmare.
Total nightmare. And the situation is described with 3 simple sentences. Sarah's in her car. She is on her way to work. She's driving to work.
Notice the momentum in that final sentence.
She is driving to work.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That is the absolute core of this entire concept. She is driving now at the exact time of speaking.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because the mechanics of building that sentence are actually pretty clever.
They really are.
If you want to put your language in motion, you need 2 distinct parts. I like to think of it like setting up a smartphone for a live broadcast.
Oh, interesting. How so?
Well, you can't just hold the phone with a shaky hand, right?
No.
You need a tripod to keep it stable.
Right, you need a base.
And in English, your tripod is made of these little helper words, am, is, or are. They supply the stability. Depending on who the camera's pointing at, you use a different tripod. I am, he, she, or it is, we, you, or they are.
And they anchor the sentence perfectly.
Yeah.
They tell the listener exactly who possesses the energy of the action right now.
Uh-huh.
But a tripod just sitting there doesn't actually broadcast anything.
All right, you have to actually hit record. You need the camera rolling. And in this language blueprint, the camera rolling is the ing that you stick onto the very end of your action word.
Right, so drive becomes driving.
Exactly. Work becomes working. Do becomes doing. So you have your tripod, I am, and your rolling camera driving. Put them together. I am driving.
The camera is officially live.
The action is happening right in front of your eyes.
Yeah.
And it's so practical for everyday life.
What's crucial to understand about that rolling camera is that it represents an unfinished state. The camera hasn't stopped recording.
The action is still alive.
Exactly. Think about how this applies to, everyday interruptions. Let's say you're sitting at a crowded cafe, you've got your headphones on, you're trying to focus on your laptop, and someone next to you is just being incredibly loud.
Ugh, the worst.
You might turn to them and say, "Please don't make so much noise, I'm trying to work."
Okay, hang on. Let me play devil's advocate here for a second.
Go for it.
Why can't I just say, I try to work? Why do I need the tripod and the rolling camera if they get the point anyway?
Well, because I try to work sounds like a general permanent habit.
Like a fact about myself.
Right. It means usually when I come to this cafe, I make an attempt to get things done. It completely fails to communicate the immediate, pressing frustration of this exact second.
Oh, wow. I never thought about it like that.
Yeah. By saying I am trying, you force the listener into your current reality. You haven't finished trying. The effort is happening right now, and they are actively interrupting it.
That completely shifts the social dynamic. It makes it so much more immediate.
It demands attention.
It's like if you are at a gathering and you ask someone, "Are you enjoying the party?" You aren't asking them for like a final Yelp review of the event after they've gone home and slept on it.
No, no, you want the live update.
You want to know while the music is still playing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You're checking in on their current experience as it unfolds. It is the micro now, the immediate exact second of speaking.
But wait, if this whole structure is strictly for things happening right this exact second, I'm looking at another visual in our notes here that seems to completely contradict that rule.
Oh, how so?
Okay, so there's a picture of a guy named Steve. He's got his phone pressed to his ear. He's looking very animated, deep in conversation with a friend.
Right, okay.
He is holding a phone. He is absolutely not holding a book. But the caption shows him saying to his friend, "I'm reading a really good book at the moment. It's about a man who," and he goes on to describe it. So is Steve just a liar? He says he is reading a book, but we can clearly see he is just gossiping on the phone. The camera isn't rolling on the reading.
But Steve isn't lying at all. What's fascinating here is where the English language does something incredibly clever with time.
Okay, I'm listening.
We've been talking about the micro now, the literal exact second you are speaking, like Sarah in her car. Steve is demonstrating the macro now. He has stretched the boundaries of what now means.
Stretched it how? Because if the golden rule is that the action is actively happening right in front of us, Steve is breaking it. He's chatting, not reading.
Think about the unfinished nature of the action. That's the real golden rule. Has Steve finished the book?
No, probably not.
Exactly. The book is probably sitting on his bedside table upstairs, maybe with a bookmark halfway through it. The process of reading it has begun, and it has not yet reached its end. Therefore, he is still in the middle of that broader action.
So now doesn't have to mean literally while the words are coming out of my mouth. It can mean this current phase of my life.
Precisely. The blueprint explicitly shows that the action isn't necessarily happening at the exact time of speaking. What matters to a native speaker is the state of it being unfinished.
Unfinished.
Right. The reality that you are actively pursuing something, even if you are taking a break from it for an hour to talk on the phone.
You know, this is a massive relief for a beginner trying to learn English. It takes away all the pressure to be perfectly, literally accurate at every single second.
It absolutely does.
Our cheat sheet has some brilliant everyday examples of this. Take this one. Kate wants to work in Italy, so she's learning Italian.
Right, and Kate might be fast asleep right now.
Exactly. She could be at the movies. She could be eating a sandwich. She is not actively conjugating verbs at a desk with flashcards right this exact second.
But she is learning Italian because she's in the middle of that life goal.
Yes. Her journey is unfinished.
Let's look at another one from the text. Some friends of mine are building their own house. They hope to finish it next summer.
Oh, that's a perfect example.
Right, because building a house takes over a year. The friends could literally be on a beach vacation 1,000 miles away from the construction site.
Drinking margaritas.
Exactly. But the process of building is undeniably their current reality. It's a huge, unfinished project defining their year.
I realize I do this all the time without even thinking about it. I'll be standing in line at the grocery store, just staring at a wall of chewing gum, and I'll tell a friend, "Oh man, I'm watching this incredible new sci-fi series."
And there's clearly no TV in front of you.
None. I'm not watching anything except the cashier scanning an apple. But the series isn't over. I'm like 3 episodes in, and I'm living inside that story right now.
See, the I am doing tense handles the immediate reality, the loud cafe, Sarah driving, just as effortlessly as it handles the broader projects of our lives.
That is so cool.
The unifying thread is always that the action is incomplete. It's in motion.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. If we can expand the size of the box we call now from a single second to an entire television season, how far can we push this? Can we put actual borders on this expanded now?
We absolutely can, and we do it all the time by using specific time markers. Our notes introduce this concept of periods around now.
Periods around now. What does that actually look like in conversation?
Think of words like today, this week, or this year. These words create a temporary container of time. We are currently sitting inside that container, and the action is happening within it.
Okay, give me a real-world scenario so I can picture it.
Okay. Imagine you walk into the office, and your coworker is furiously typing away. There are coffee cups everywhere, total laser focus on the monitor.
We've all been there.
Right. You walk up and say, wow, you're working hard today. And they reply, yes, I have a ton to do. Now, why do you think we use the tripod and camera structure there? You are working hard today.
Well, going back to what we established about Steve and the book, I guess it's because the day isn't over yet. They are currently inside the unfinished box of today.
That's part of it, yes.
Yeah.
But the deeper reason is contrast.
Contrast.
Yeah. By using the present continuous with the word today, you are highlighting that this is a temporary, specific burst of energy.
Yeah.
You're subconsciously distinguishing it from a permanent, everyday boss line.
Ah, I see. Because if I just said, you work hard, I'm giving them a generalized compliment. I'm saying, you are fundamentally a hard worker. Every day, all year, you work hard.
Exactly. You work hard is a character trait. It's a static fact. You're working hard today points a spotlight directly on the momentum of this specific temporary window of time.
Like it's an anomaly.
Or just a special effort being made right now. It acknowledges a deviation from the norm.
That is such a subtle but powerful social tool. You're acknowledging their current struggle or their current hustle. It's incredibly practical for a professional environment.
It really is.
Our blueprint actually has another business example that mirrors this perfectly. It says, the company I work for isn't doing so well this year.
Notice how this year functions the exact same way as today. It's just a larger container.
Right. We are currently inside that year. The year is not finished yet, and the company's struggle is an ongoing action within that container.
Exactly. And more importantly, the way that's phrased implies hope.
Hope? Wait, how does a failing company imply hope?
Well, think about the alternative. If you say, my company doesn't do well, what does that sound like?
Oh, it sounds permanent.
Right.
It sounds like a doomed business that fundamentally fails at what it does. Just a static fact.
Yes. But saying the company isn't doing so well this year frames the struggle as a temporary unfinished state. It leaves room for next year to be better. We aren't saying the company is permanently bad.
Wow. It's a snapshot of a moving target rather than a final verdict.
That's a brilliant observation. The grammar itself protects the possibility of change.
I love that.
And that concept of a moving target leads us perfectly into the final and perhaps most dynamic use of this tense.
So what does this all mean? Which leads to a really interesting realization. If this tripod and camera structure is so good at capturing temporary states and moving targets, how does it handle things that are fundamentally transforming?
Like when the action itself isn't just happening, it's evolving. This is arguably its most powerful application. When we want to describe transformation, we pull out this exact tense. If you look at the blueprint, it highlights a family of verbs that are the heavy lifters of evolution.
Heavy lifters. I like that. What are they?
Words like get, change, become, increase, rise, fall, grow, improve, begin, and start.
Okay, let's put this to the test. Let's say I'm an English learner, someone you're having coffee with, and you want to ask me about my progress with the language. If you just use standard static verbs and ask, does your English get better? I mean, honestly, I wouldn't even know how to answer that. It sounds robotic.
It feels like I'm asking for a scientific rule, like asking, does water freeze at 0 degrees?
Right. It totally lacks empathy. It doesn't sound human. But if you apply our tripod and camera and ask, is your English getting better? The whole vibe changes.
Because now I'm acknowledging the messy middle of your journey. I know you aren't perfectly fluent yet, and I know you aren't a total beginner anymore.
I'm somewhere in the gray area.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You're actively traveling from point A to point B.
I'm on the bridge, and you're asking me how the walk across the bridge is going. It's asking for a status update on an ongoing evolution.
Spot on.
And the blueprint shows how this scales up too. Not just personal growth, but massive global shifts. Look at this sentence. The population of the world is increasing very fast.
You can almost feel the momentum in that sentence.
You really do feel it. The numbers are ticking up right this second as we speak, and they haven't stopped. Contrast that with saying the population of the world increases.
Yeah, that just sounds flat.
It sounds like a dry statistic recited in an encyclopedia from 1995. It has zero urgency.
Because words like increase or grow or improve naturally imply a process that takes time. They resist being frozen into a static photograph. If we connect this to the bigger picture, look at how the notes frame starting a new mindset. The example is, at first I didn't like my job, but I'm beginning to enjoy it now.
I'm beginning to enjoy it. They don't fully love it yet.
Right. The transformation isn't complete. They haven't arrived at total job satisfaction.
Yeah.
But the ice is thawing.
I love that. The shift is actively happening.
It captures that exact, delicate moment where your perspective is changing gears.
It gives you a way to express the gray areas of life, which is so freeing. You don't have to wait until you are 100% fluent to talk about your language skills, and you don't have to wait until you absolutely love your job to say things are getting better.
You can talk from inside the process.
And honestly, isn't that where most of life actually happens? We are always in the middle of something.
We really are. We are always halfway through a book or in the middle of a workday or gradually getting better at a new skill.
So as we wrap up, let's bring the blueprint together for you, the listener. We started with the micro now. Sarah stuck in her pink car in traffic, the live broadcast of an exact second she is driving.
Then Steve, holding his phone, showed us the macro now. The ability to be in the middle of a massive project like reading a book or building a house. Even if your hands aren't touching it right this second, he is reading.
And we saw how to draw borders around our time, with periods around now, today, this week, reminding a coworker that their hustle is recognized as a specific burst of energy. You are working hard today.
And finally, we watched verbs evolve in real time. Capturing the thawing of ice, the shifting of minds, and the growth of populations, the world is changing.
A golden thread through all of it is the unfinished. The tripod, the am, is, or are, and the rolling camera, the ing, combine to capture momentum.
They absolutely do. And, looking at all these examples of momentum, there is a deeper layer to this that goes beyond just memorizing a grammar rule. It's about how the language we use actually programs our mindset.
Oh, I'm intrigued. What do you mean by programming our mindset?
Well, think about the identity you assign yourself when you take on a new challenge. If you walk around telling people, I learn English or I write novels, you are stating a finished fact. You are putting a tremendous amount of pressure on yourself to already be the expert, to have already conquered the mountain. It feels heavy. It feels like a static checkbox that you either have or you haven't ticked.
Oh man, I see exactly what you mean. It invites imposter syndrome. Because you're thinking, am I really a learner? Am I really a writer? I didn't study today, so maybe I'm a fraud.
Precisely. It implies a finished state of being. But the moment you engage the present continuous, the moment you use the tools we've explored today and say, I am learning English or I am writing a book, you give yourself grace.
You publicly declare that you are in the messy middle.
Yes. You aren't claiming to be perfect. You are only claiming to be in motion.
That's powerful.
I am learning means making mistakes is built into your current reality. It means you are evolving. It shifts your own perception of yourself from a static, rigid object that can fail to a fluid, moving process that is simply growing.
You aren't a static photograph.
No, you are a continuous, unfolding story.
That is a profound way to look at it. You don't have to be the finished product. You just have to keep the tripod steady and the camera rolling. It's empowering.
Very much so.
So, as you step back into your day today, look around. Notice the actions unfolding right in front of you. Notice the big projects you're halfway through.
Acknowledge the messy middle.
Exactly. Remember that you hold the live-action camera of the English language. Keep evolving, keep moving, and we will catch you on the next deep dive.